Hey Channel Insiders, welcome back to Channel Insider Partner POV, your source for untapped opportunities and unfiltered opinions in the IT channel, all to help you make better business decisions. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso. My guest today is Michael Pompey, CIO and CTO of Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania. This episode is such a full circle moment for me because I was a Girl Scout for many years growing up. But this isn't just another nonprofit. The Girl Scouts are an enterprise-level operation, raising billions of dollars from cookie sales every year. It's up to Michael and his channel solution providers to make sure the Girl Scouts of Eastern PA is secure, efficient, and able to focus on providing the foundational life skills to help girls grow. So what does that take? You're about to find out. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you, Katie. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with you today.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I wore my cadet green. I'm so prepared for this as a former Girl Scout.
Yes.
I've been telling everybody who will listen about this for days. So thank you for being a part of the show.
Listen, and thanks for just being an example of just the mission and just how, the girls we serve go everywhere and change the world in so many different ways. It's so many times I'm at a tech conference or an event. Someone's like, oh, I used to be a Girl Scout. I used to do this. It's like, okay, well, you're still a Girl Scout, right? Once a Scout, always a Scout. You're still a Scout.
Yes.
That's right. So thank you. Thank you for representing your green.
That makes me so happy. I'll dig out there's got to be a patch for this. So if I can earn that.
We've got media patches. We've got that. Definitely. Yeah. Stop in your local council. They'll take care of you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the tip. I will absolutely do that. So as everybody can tell, what you do is just so incredible. And I think that when it comes to working with the Girl Scouts anywhere in the country, people don't think immediately about technology. They don't think about security. And for you, this is nothing new. This has been your entire career. And so I wanted to take a moment to really let you kind of talk to me about your career journey, because we've been an IT leader for many years across different organizations that are very near and dear to your heart. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to being a CIO at Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania and how it led you there?
I think you used the most appropriate word, journey. And that's exactly what it's been. And for me, it's really been an amazing trip to the various organizations I've worked at, organizations that had either a mission focus or a community focus, but who also needed help as it related to sort of, leveraging technology or different strategy or bringing a sort of a different perspective to things. Mm-hmm. So for me, my journey, to being, CIO here at the Girl Scouts is interesting in that I never really wanted to be a CIO. I wanted to be an engineer. I actually went to school for electrical engineering and things of that nature. And so as I started studying engineering, the way it was taught many moons ago when I was in school did not leave me with the passion that I thought I would have for engineering. So, kind of roam around, take some different courses, fell in love with criminology of all things, criminal investigation, forensics, right? It really lit me up. It's like, this is just this whole hidden world. But I always brought all the technology, all of the engineering along with me for the ride. And when I finally started my career, I saw a tremendous gap related to organizations, the data that they try to collect, and then their ability to use it. So that's what kicked me off. And then I started developing software to actually bridge that need. And then once I started doing that, I saw, there is a need for someone who understands both sides of this equation that could bring technology in what I like to call a tree and rock form for folks to understand so that everyone can improve. And so that's what kind of really started me off. So I've worked in education, I've worked in community planning, mapping, GIS, government, workforce, a lot of different areas. So my journey to the Girl Scouts actually started during COVID, of all things, right? We all remember how COVID was. We remember how scary a time it was. And one of the things that I knew was that once this thing is over, as long as Western civilization survives, I need to get back to that original mission of helping organizations that want to empower and help other people. And so that was my drive. And when the opportunity came to have a conversation with the CEO of Girl Scouts of Eastern PA and to see just what they were doing, I saw that similar thread, an organization wanting to take advantage of the latest technology, wanting to do their job better, not just for the sake of moving product or not just for the sake of scoring a better deal for licensing, but really empowering various communities, particularly communities that traditionally don't see themselves as part of the Girl Scout mission. And when I saw that, a light bulb went off to me to say, you know what? here's an organization that is worthy of my talents. They should have a person like me on their team. So that's kind of what started me on this path to being CIO here at the Girl Scouts of Eastern PA.
Let's talk about your role now, because as I said in the
Okay.
beginning, you think about Girl Scouts, obviously you think about cookies, you're not really thinking about cybersecurity and IT and digital transformation. So walk me through your role as the CIO and your responsibilities at GSEP.
Sure. So you hit the nail on the head, right? A lot of times people think about cookies, camps, and crafts, but the Girl Scouts is so much more. The Girl Scouts is an enterprise like any other enterprise, and just like that, they have their needs. So my role as CIO here at Girl Scouts of Eastern PA, it's interesting is that the hardcore technology, the gears and all the, from the jack back stuff is probably the third priority on my list. My first priority really is about how do we leverage our tools, data and BI, to affect our strategy. The girls we want to impact, the communities we want to serve, where are they? How do we do that more efficiently? And how do we keep our eye on that needle? Number two for me is then helping to support our transformation, our regional approach. We serve 9 counties here in southeastern PA. So you've got all the different varieties of communities from urban Philadelphia to Allegheny out west, Delaware County at the south. And there's a lot of different nuances, different populations within that footprint. Everyone has a different set of needs. How are we making sure that we marshal our resources as well as the ability to communicate with our army of volunteers to make sure that our mission is delivered? That's number 2 for me. And then number 3 is the traditional things you think about when you think about a CIO or a CTO, is the technology, the applications, the stacks, the environments, things of that nature. So that's sort of the 1, 2, 3 that I manage here in my role at GSEP.
So let's talk about how you leverage the IT channel. Talk to me a little bit about some of the partners that you leverage for your IT needs. What do you outsource? What do they manage? How do they help you run your business, run this enterprise, as you so aptly said? And how critical are they to the operation?
These partners are more critical than ever. No one's got the ability to do everything in-house anymore. And if you are trying to do everything in-house, I guarantee you're dropping a ball on something, because the amount of expertise, the amount of change coming at CIOs and CTOs today is staggering. So you definitely need some type of partner, even if it's just perspective related to just what's out there, just to help you plan and leverage your resources appropriately. So for us here at GSEP, we leverage the usual suspects. You've got your managed service providers, your security providers. You deal with OEMs as it relates to hardware and gear, consultants as it relates to expertise in certain areas and various one-offs that you have to deploy. So that's what I kind of see in my portfolio of partnerships that I have in this organization. During my previous path, there were at various other nonprofits or government entities, you also throw in independent software vendors. Folks are going to be integrating different tools into the hardware that you may be purchasing, because once again, you've got limited resources, limited bandwidth, limited headcount. How do you leverage these things to sort of have what I like to think of as a right size approach to enterprise size needs? So that's kind of what I see in our area. And the importance of having these partners, I can't really even speak to it without having them, because you just could not do this work efficiently and effectively without them.
You're telling me you can't just be in all 9 counties at once telling everybody how to not click on the wrong thing on their computers and so on?
Exactly. No, and what's interesting is that, my first year, trying to, understand the lay of the land. So I did what I like to call my unofficial concert tour of all of our properties, because typically you're thinking of, I'm thinking of laptops and network gear and routers and things of that nature. But these are deployed across 1,300 acres of property. So I want to put my eyes on these different things. And so as I'm driving out to these different locations, you're literally driving up a mountain, to some of these places. There are, places where I was like, there are legit bears on site. I'm like, there's like a black bear out in front of this place. And it helps you get a different perspective just related to how technology even supports some of these remote areas and these camps that our girls visit and utilize. And it is no joke. We had a situation where one of our carriers was out at one of our sites, rolling over and bringing in some fiber. And, you're taking a look at the service tickets, making sure things are getting updated. And then suddenly it's just like this blank response. And so I'm out there, I'm like, hey, did the tech go on site? They're like, yeah, but he left under duress. It's like, under duress? Oh my goodness, did something happen? What's going on? And then the person just put in the ticket a picture of a black bear. And I was like, yeah, that that'll do it. That'll do it.
Instead of saying duress, you should have led with bear.
Correct.
I really also want to make sure that we bring up the cookies, because I
here
know,
we go.
Here we go. We're talking about the Girl Scout cookies. The first time I asked you about this, I had no idea what the industry, the literal industry that was the cookie industry for Girl Scouts. Talk to me about your budgeting situation based on the cookies, and give me a little bit of background on, enlighten my audience on the cookie sales, that it's much bigger than they probably think outside their grocery store.
It definitely is. And, one of the things that's amazing, and it was one of the things that took me a while to learn coming to work for this organization, is that one, it is the largest girl-led, self-based business on the planet. This is a business that does number 3 to your more well-known brands like Oreos and Keebler and things like that. $2 billion these girls are able to do via this program. And it teaches such a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial skills, dealing with customers, doing outreach, doing marketing. It's just an amazing program of itself. So I have to just start with just the program itself, just what it does, and allowing girls to raise their own revenue to support various types of activities, trips, initiatives in the community. So many different things our young people are doing. So it's just an amazing program. Now, related to the first question you asked about the budgeting and how it impacts. Everybody loves cookies, right? And, you see all the jokes about, Girl Scout cookies, they're like dealers. I can't say no to Samoas or Thin Mints and things of that nature. And I get it. I've stood in tractor trailers full of cookies and spent way too much money on the cookies. But one of the interesting things that can be a challenge in this environment is the volatility as it relates to, this particular program, depending on what consumers are interested in, depending on the weather, depending on just a number of different things. You can have a tremendous year very, very quickly, or you can find challenges. You can see, spikes in demands for certain flavors that are harder to get. The bakers work with all of the various councils. We're all independent. So we all try to manage this needle together as it relates to that. But that can present a challenge because the threats don't go away. The needs don't go away from an enterprise. So how do you make sure that you've got the appropriate sized approach, keeping your eye on that needle, as well as the data that might let you know whether or not you're on or off track? Because as we all know, right, our little cookie dealers, there's a limited time set to make this mark as it relates to this. So we have to have all of our systems running, our data lined up, the information clean, because when we pull the trigger with the baker to produce X number of batches, those cookies are in flow. So they need to get from there to our customers, to our troops, and out the door. And so data becomes such an important piece of that as it relates to not only the revenue that the girls can earn, but how we support our services in the following year. So that's just one piece that's different here at Girl Scouts of Eastern PA. The other piece is our volunteer base. So much of our service and program delivery are delivered by volunteers. So how do we make sure to set up systems that they can access that are not cumbersome and clunky, but allow them to do the work that they need to do, as well as allow us the transparency into the activity so we know where we need to place our bets as it relates to services, staffing, outreach, marketing, communication, fundraising, even compliance needs based on all of that information. So that is a huge piece for us.
When it comes to budgeting for you year over year, is there a way that maybe channel partners can consider your needs and approach you better, knowing what those budgeting restrictions are based on those cookie sales?
Sure, definitely. I think, one, being open to have the conversation, to take a look at, ways that we can keep our eye on and reduce any swings as it relates to expenses and forecast things, particularly as an environment grows and needs different levels of maturity, different levels of services, different levels of governance, and being able to keep the eye on it versus what can sometimes happen with a particular vendor is that you just suddenly get an invoice for an increase without any forecasting, without any foreknowledge that this is coming your way. I think that's where really good partnerships, where folks understand your business, understand how you operate, and are walking a path with you, become even more important, because now you've got someone that knows, hey, these are the 3 times of year that are really important for this particular organization. How can I get ahead of any challenges that may impact them if things don't go their way? It requires forethought. It requires understanding. It requires boots on the ground sometimes, just kind of seeing what's going on, getting an understanding of the lay of the land to better service, because that is so important, particularly if you can have such a wild swing. We're talking 6 weeks for some councils to make 80 to 90% of their budget. So if anything goes off within that, it can have a long ripple and a long tail to it.
And as we've spoken about, we've definitely seen impacts that aren't expected. And we've also seen ones that impact, for example, we're coming off of the CrowdStrike-driven Microsoft outage. So you think about things like that. And in a 6-week period, losing a few days is critical to that budget, those budgetary needs and that revenue. So incredibly important to consider on that level. Going in the same thought where your partners, your channel partners are helping you be able to move forward as a team, and as the CIO and CTO of Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania, you mentioned volunteers, and that really gets me thinking, because immediately I think about security and some of the needs surrounding that. What is the security outlook at Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania? Are there any unique challenges there, and do you rely on channel partners to help you stay safe, essentially?
Well, certainly. I believe every industry probably facing the same threats. Sometimes people may make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, you're the Girl Scouts. No one hates you. It has nothing to do with that, right? It has nothing to do with whether or not you hate us or love us. Everyone is a target, and whether or not it's something direct or something that comes from someone else's data breach, we're affected. If you think about what happened with Change Healthcare, close to 75% of all households are estimated to be involved in that breach. That includes our staff, and it also includes the families we support. So we definitely need the help of our MSP, our security service providers, to also sort of keep our perimeter tight. So you asked a question about unique needs because of volunteers. In usual nonprofit environments, the idea is, okay, well, you know what? I force compliance because someone's an employee, right? There's that sort of, carrot stick relationship between employee and employer. But when you're leveraging volunteers, you don't necessarily have that. While you can provide the tools that folks can get the training and folks can, to do the sign-offs, you have to make sure that visibility into, what folks are accessing, what is available, is tightened as much as possible, because leakages can happen with people just doing things accidentally, and making sure that you leverage the tools. So for us, a lot of tools are provided by the mother organization, Girl Scouts National, but we also have tools we deploy ourselves, and just making sure that you've got the right compliance environments, just from a vendor management and procurement perspective first, to make sure that you're dealing with peoples that have products and partnerships that can support your needs thereby, if you've got something that happens, you've done everything possible to make sure you can ensure that that data is safe and doesn't go places it should not.
Hey, this interview isn't over. I couldn't fit it all into one episode, so come back on Tuesday for part 2. Thank you so much to Michael for joining me today, and thank you for watching or listening. You can check out all episodes of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com, or watch on YouTube at channelinsider_news and trends. You can also listen to every episode as a podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever possible so you never miss an episode. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I will see you next time.